everyone. Welcome to the program. This is Sunday Politics live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbale in Abuja. Happy Easter to all our Christians wherever you may be watching. It's quite a time in our history as a people, isn't it? But today is one day that we must reflect. We must remember the values the season brings with it, how God reconciled himself with us men, and the sacrifice made to redeem us all. In that spirit, we commence the conversation on this program tonight with one of the inspiring Easter messages I've read today, that of the member of the National Youth Committee and the Bishop of Sokoto Diocese of the Catholic Church of Nigeria, Bishop Hassan Matthew Kuka. And he began with the one he titled "The Hate That Hate Has Produced," and he says, "Hatred has no redeeming values. The current state of hate does not define us, and we need to slow it down. We must listen to one another, seek reconciliation. In the end, only true Christian love can redeem us." But I'd like to say tonight that there's been so much hate and bad blood spreading around, and the discourse after election has generated heated controversies. Can we calm down as a people for a moment? Let's remember that we have a nation to run and a life to live. Bishop Matthew Kuka is reminding President Muhammadu Buhari, who's been in the saddle for over 7 years now, almost 8 years, and this is his word to President Muhammadu Buhari. He says, "As you prepare to return to Daura or Kaduna, I do not know if you feel fulfilled or that you met the tall dreams and goals you set for yourself, such as ending banditry, defeating corruption, bringing back our girls belonging to everybody and belonging to nobody, selling off our presidential fleet and traveling with us, etc., and so many other issues that have been raised." These are the words of Bishop Kuka to President Muhammadu Buhari. But he also has a word for the incoming, the Bola Tinubu, the incoming president and the president-elect. And this is what he's telling him tonight. He says, "To the incoming president, I'm hopeful that you will appreciate that the most urgent task facing our nation is not infrastructure or the usual cheap talk about dividends of democracy. These are important, but first, keep us alive, because only the living can enjoy infrastructure." Bishop Matthew Kuka went further to talk about the situation in our country, especially as relating to the judiciary. And this is what Bishop Kuka said about the judiciary. He said, "Nigerians are saddened that your sacred temples are being invaded by the political class, leaving the toxic fumes that now threaten your reputation as the last hope for all citizens. It is sad that your hard-earned reputation is undergoing very severe stress and pressure from those who want justice on their own terms. Nigerians are looking up to you to reclaim their trust in you as the interpreters of the spirit of our laws. The future of our country is in your hands." I mentioned earlier how this conversation after the election is generating a lot of tension in the land, and this is what Bishop Kuka had to say to the Nigerian youth. He said, quote, "You must look at the mistakes of the past and avoid them. Note that your actions today will shape tomorrow. Learn the rules of good sportsmanship. Know rules, know your roles. Know when to fight, know when to fight for, and know when to walk away so you can embrace other fights." These are some of the words of the very revered clergyman, Bishop Hassan Matthew Kuka. But tonight, I'd like us to have some reflections and gain some insight into the very knowledgeable, learned, Sikh, senior advocate of Nigeria, Professor Sagay, who joins us live from Lagos. And let's get his views on some very prevailing national issues, which I thought that his views tonight might help us as a people to gain some our compass and get move forward. Let me go back for a moment and look at what again Bishop Matthew Kuka said to Bola Tinubu, which I think is very important in this season and period that we're trying to set an agenda for the incoming government. He says, quote, To the incoming president, I'm hopeful that you will appreciate that the most urgent task facing our nation is not infrastructure or the usual cheap talk about dividends of democracy. These are important, but first, keep us alive, because only the living can enjoy infrastructure. For now, the most urgent mission is to start a psychological journey of making Nigerians feel whole again, of creating a large tent of opportunity and hope for us all, of expanding the frontiers of our collective freedom, of cutting off the chains of ethnicity and religious bigotry, of helping us recover from the feeling of collective rape by those who imported the men of the darkness that destroyed our country, of recovering our country and placing us on the path to our greatness, of exalting the ghost of nepotism and religious bigotry. Those are the words of Bishop Matthew Kuka. And very resounding too, as some of how these words sit into the very immediate situation of Nigeria in the post-election period. And of course, generally when we talk about moving this nation forward in terms of national development, it is a very critical point that we are as a people. And these are the words tonight that came to me, more than words, they literally came out in those letters. And they're giving some insight that we may all ruminate on as a people. We are divided along party lines. People think that they belong here and others belong on the other side. And there is this conflict of ideas, debating, and we differ in so many ways. But are these differences costing us more than we bargained for when we entered into the 2023 elections? And so this is some of the conversations that we hope that we can navigate through tonight on the program. And I'm hoping that Professor Sagay will help us make sense of some of the issues that have been raised. I don't know if Professor Sagay can hear me now. It's good to see you, Prof, and happy Easter to you, sir.
Good evening, and good evening, Nigerians. Can you repeat the question? I want to hear it.
I'll just a pleasantry that I was exchanging first and foremost. I was just saying happy Easter to you. But if you can hear me now, I think we're good to go.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and it's good to see you after such a long time. But let's begin the conversation. This is the Easter celebration.
Thank you.
And the mood in which the country is a mood of which a lot of division has been caused by the election. And I was reading out some of the messages Bishop Kuka has sent out on a day as this. So let me get your view about the election. How would you describe the election considering the promises made by INEC and the outcome that we saw?
Thank you very much. A lot of people who have commented on these elections are young people who have not really gone through many election cycles in this country. In my personal opinion, in terms of representing the minds and wishes of Nigerians in an election, this is probably the best election we have ever had. If you very, very scientifically or in terms of experience go through the previous elections we have had, particularly those conducted by politicians, the military to civil rule elections were okay. The colonial government organized elections were okay. But the problems we have had in this country is politician to politician elections, elections organized by politicians. If you look at those elections, you think of 1959, 1964, where in the North, 80 candidates were returned unopposed out of 167 constituencies. If you think of the next one we had, in fact, was 1979, I believe.
You're right.
And we all know what happened. We had the two-test problem. And then, of course, if we come closer to the present time, you have 2007. That is probably the worst election we've ever had under civilian rule. So we had good elections in 2011 and 2015, 2019. But this, in terms of representing what Nigerians or interpreting and expressing what the Nigerians feel, is the best election we have ever had. If you look at the way things have gone with the Beavers, the very idea that the APC was defeated in Lagos, that should make you realize immediately that these are very credible elections. And if you go through the whole country, it's the same sort of accuracy and reflection of the feelings of Nigerians. I believe that these elections were controlled by three factors: ethnicity, religion, and organizational capacity, which is an attribute of Asiwaju Tinubu. Now, if you look at ethnicity, you can see that basically people who won elections came first in the areas where they come from. The three most successful candidates won massively in areas where they came from. Why Tinubu was successful is that apart from the southeast, in areas where he did not come from, northeast, northwest, he was a very, very close second, all through, close second. Then if you look at North Central, he won North Central. If you look at the southeast, of course, was a very, very disastrous election for PDP and APC, where the Labour Party was scoring up to 80, 83, 90%, which is consistent with the tendency of the people populating that area. If you look at South-South, he was very credible. Tinubu was very credible too. Rivers State, Cross Rivers, and credible performance in the areas where he lost. So that's as far as ethnicity is concerned. If you look at religion, you will find Obi polling very well in Plateau State, which has a strong Christian community and which tends to be very, I don't know how to put it, but to be very, a little bit unhappy with non-Christian communities from the clashes they have had. So it performed very well there. If you look at Nasarawa, where Obi performed very well, I think it's a state that has a lot of people coming from the southeast. So if you look at the results generally, the man who has the spread across the country and then won massively in the west and North Central, and did excellently well, very close second in the northwest and northeast, and performed credibly in not southeast, south-south. If you look at all those factors, it explains the issue of ethnicity that I said, the issue of religion, but above all, what gave Tinubu the edge was his capacity to organize, to plan, and to plant agencies and supporters and various administrative bodies all over the states in the country, particularly in the north, where he came a very close second. That's the other thing I want to point out. Where he lost in the north and northwest, it was a very, very close second, with a little gap between Atiku and himself. But if you look at Labour Party, they did excellently well, 90%, 80% in Southeast. Did very well in Lagos, but as they crept northwards, as the state as was going northwards, there was progressive loss of power, of capacity, progressive loss. The hurricane became spent as it crept up after Lagos. And by the time it got to the northeast and northwest, we're talking of very abysmal results. 12%, 10,000, 5,000, 6,000, where the leaders, that's PDP and APC, were scoring 500,000, 300,000, very close to each other. So that, in my view, is the explanation for what happened. And I believe it expressed the true mind of Nigerians as at today.
So, Prof,
that is the way Nigerians feel.
Yeah. So, like,
there's something natural about the results. Yes.
There are those who would disagree with that position. And I mean, you've done a lot of analysis as to how you think this election played out and what caused the outcome. But those who are in the opposition who believe that the election was largely manipulated, and perhaps the reason why we have seen so much agitation coming from the opposition side, and it was a loud outcry that we're seeing online that people are now challenging world powers and other leaders of other countries to tell the world that the election in Nigeria of 2023 was largely manipulated and it does not reflect the true position or the true yearnings of the Nigerian people. How do you react to such?
No, there is no evidence of that. There is no evidence of any manipulation. Well, there could be some, but of large manipulation, which actually changed the way Nigerians felt about the parties. There's no such thing. The beavers was used. The beavers was very successful. Can you imagine APC losing in Lagos? I mean, immediately that should tell you that the beavers was working, that the election was a straightforward and credible election. For that to happen, it's unheard of in over 23 years. So, in other areas also, as I try to explain, if you see the North and Northwest, Article 1, because it comes from that side. But where Tinubu succeeded, what made him succeed, was that where he was not number one, he was always close number two, except in the Southeast. He was number one in the Southwest, number one in the North Central, and then in the areas where he was not number one, always close. Look at the northern results, Northwest, Northeast, always a close second. So he was able to marshal votes all over the country except in the Southeast. The others were not able to do that. If you look at the results for the Labour Party in the Northeast and Northwest, I mean, it was a very, very sad
Prof,
outcome.
Were you
3,000, 4,000, where others were scoring 300,000.
Yeah. Were you surprised about the outcome, Prof? Considering the rave, especially someone like Peter Obi, the rave that he came with before the election and going into the election, and several polls have said Peter Obi was going to win the election. Were you surprised that Tinubu won?
No, I wasn't surprised. I had no faith in those polls. You just pick up your phone youths in urban areas, and they tell you their views. Do you know the views of the massive northern rural population? Were they contacted? Nobody, they were not contacted. Their views were not taken into consideration. So it was a poorly exercised poll. And it's a very unfortunate thing that it set up the stage to mislead the Labour Party that it was going to win. It was very unfortunate. Throughout, when I was reading those polls, I was just laughing. Because you pick a few urban youths and you say that's Nigeria. Nigeria is a rural country with massive numbers of people in the villages all over the country, particularly in the north. Their views were not taken into consideration. And that was the result. That's why there was such a contradiction between the predictions of the pollsters, some of whom were even from America. Those who failed to predict that Donald Trump would win in 1916 were coming here to predict for us. So, and in a terrain they know nothing about. No, those polls were not credible from the beginning.
So are you not worried about the outcome or the aftermath, what the elections has left our nation with? And this is a division along ethnic lines, division along religious line. Are you perhaps also, in fact, concerned about the violence that we saw, those injuries, those attacks on people, those restrictions for some people not to vote just because they do not live in certain areas? And this is largely in many parts of the country and even in Lagos. What are your worries about this situation or the issues that the election has left us with? Isn't a quagmire, a quandary of some sort? And I'm just wondering how a nation can be rid of this mess.
For those who are very upset about the results because they were expecting to win, that is the thing. But obviously what you expect does not necessarily have to come true. They were expecting to win, so they're very badly disappointed at what had happened. Now, this is what I will say. They have resorted to the courts. That is one balm on their pain for an objective body of jurists to look at the results. Even if they fail at that level, they should look forward to another 4 years. In another 4 years, there'll still be another general election. It's not a one-time thing forever. It's not a one-time forever thing. It's something that is continuous every 4 years. And what I will suggest and advise those who failed, particularly the Labour Party, they should now go to the ground, ground through the whole country and begin to organize. They had no organization. If you look at the governorship election, they only won one governorship election out of 28. That's an indication of a party that has no roots in the country, but was clearly a hurricane that just blew through the country and lost steam along the way. And what I would suggest to them is that they should now start putting their roots on the ground instead of quarreling and fighting and abusing everybody. They should just simply put their roots, start planning, have branches, organization, the Tinubu way. We have to give it to him that he's a super organizer, and the result of this election shows that organization, in which his victories and solid results spread across the whole country, except the Southeast. So it's a question of planning an organization and preparing for the next 4 years, where they will have a good chance. If they don't do so, it will be a disaster at the end of 4 years.
The challenge,
that's what I suggest to them. Go and sit down and prepare.
The challenge has now been thrown at the judiciary, which attention is now going to be on. In fact, there are those senior lawyers in the land that are now asking that for the sake of transparency, that the process in the Election Petition Tribunal and the proceedings should be televised, and Nigerians should be able to watch the proceedings live. Do you subscribe to that, Prof?
I don't. I mean, I have nothing against it. Let me put it that way. I'll be glad to sit in my office or in my house and watch the proceedings. But it will make no difference either way, whether Nigerians are watching. Well, what is the watching going to do? Terrify the judges into taking a decision which they do not believe is in accordance with the law? It will make no difference. But the joy of watching the proceedings may be something appealing to them. And if that is considered and implemented, I have no objection, but it will make absolutely no difference to the outcome of the judicial intervention in this matter.
So, I mean, and I look at it this way, there are those, in fact, another concern from the opposition is what the role the judiciary will play in these and whether or not there's a trust, and those who have interpreted the relevant sections of the law in this matter. We've had several lawyers that have disagreed on the position of the Section 183 and Section 229 and every other aspect of the Constitution relating to the election differently. And those, in fact, the conversation I had with the vice presidential candidate of the Labour Party and his own views about the Constitution and what the judiciary should do. But perhaps succinctly is how Bishop Kukah puts the situation and the manner in which Nigerians are looking at the judiciary in respect of our election. Prof, let me read out to you what Bishop Kukah said. And I quote, he said, Nigerians are saddened that and he's making reference to the judges now. He said, Nigerians are saddened that your sacred temples have been invaded by the political class, leaving the toxic fumes that now threaten your reputation as the last hope for all citizens. It is sad that your hard-earned reputation is undergoing very severe stress and pressure from those who want justice on their own terms. Nigerians are looking up to you to reclaim their trust in you as the interpreters of the spirit of our laws. The future of our country is in your hands. End of quote. That, those are words of Bishop Kukah today. Prof, what do you make of that trust issue and the Nigerian judiciary in respect of the election?
Yes, I also pray that the Nigerian judiciary lives up to expectation, because it is the highest court in the land, is the greatest temple of justice in this country. So let them go into this matter, look at it judicially, and use all their knowledge and experience and come out with the truth in terms of who won the election. But they should do it according to their consciences and not under pressure or threat by anybody. Let them do it, go into it, come out with a result which is consistent with the law and with their conscience and with justice in this matter. And if they do that, fine. And there's nothing we can do if they don't do that. I want to emphasize that. We cannot do anything about the judiciary. Once they take a decision, that's it. I pray they take the right decision, but let nobody think they can intimidate them or can do anything if they take a decision they don't like. We have seen it all over the world. We have seen it in America, where in 2000, where the Supreme Court decided in favor of the Republican Party candidate on the basis of, they found no basis in a sense, because the results were so close and the Floridan votes were being counted. And in the middle of it, the Supreme Court just said, stop, we give the result to the Republican. And there was peace, because we have to accept that the system we are in is a democratic system, and the judiciary is part of that democratic system, and acceptance of what they decide is crucial to the survival of democracy. We must not threaten them. We can blame them, we can criticize them, but we must not threaten them, and we must not try to compel them to take a decision which is favorable to us, whether they like it, whether they think is the right decision or not. We must be prepared to accept the decision, shrug, move on, plan for the next election, try again, maybe we'll win the next one. That is the spirit we must adopt if democracy is to survive.
All right, Prof, before we go on the break, I'd like to know your views about this very strong online commentators and Nigerians who are online who have sometimes toe on the hardline path, and sometimes they are very passionate about their views. Are you aware, and perhaps you've seen the engagement, how they engage the likes of Professor Wole Soyinka on how they perceive our our democracy and the manner in which elections have gone and things are going in the society, and they believe that things are going really awry. Are you aware of it and how things, that conversation and debate has been online?
I have watched the interview of Professor Soyinka, and his views, which I accept totally, in that you cannot use vehemence and outburst of anger to control how this country is to be ruled. You cannot say it must be me or nobody else. He was right, and I certainly accept all his views. I have seen the insults being poured on him in social media, and this is the point we're making. You won't win an election by insults in social media. You just put people off. The next time round, it will be concluded that you are not fit to rule or be in the ruling party, because that is how you are going to terrorize the country. So what is being done by some members of the Labour Party is contrary to the interest of the Labour Party in the future. I expect them, well, they're mostly young people, to start planning for the next 4 years so that they can do their best, the party can do its best, and possibility of winning is always there. Instead of abusing, insulting, and threatening everybody on social media. I've seen some of the language being used, of calling him, referring to his period as a head of this organization, the Pirates, in very, very insulting terms. So if people resort to that, they are not ready to see reason, then they will continue to suffer the same fate, I'm afraid.
Prof, look, there is a huge work to be done on our polity. There is a lot of disunity that is out there. And someone like former President Olusegun Obasanjo said there is a need for healing and a need for an urgent reconciliation. How do you hope we can achieve this healing and reconciliation?
Well, I think once the Supreme Court has finally decided, everybody should calm down. We should reach across to each other and work with each other. If you look at the National Assembly, it's a good mix, a very good mix. Even the leading party does not have an overall majority, at least as of now. The Labour Party and the PDP have large numbers. So that is an opportunity for the three parties to look at the interests of the country, work together, plan legislation for the benefit of Nigeria, and of course, persuade the president, whoever it's going to be, to sign it so that we can look forward to a brighter future. Elections are seasonal. Once they come, they go. We have to live with each other for the next 4 years. So let us work together, let us blend together and agree that we're all Nigerians and that we all have an interest in running of the country and contribute to what the government is doing. And then if we want to be the government ourselves, plan again, work hard so that in the next 4 years, this time the result will favor us. That's the way I look at it. It's not a hopeless situation. Those who lost this time can win next time. They should look forward and plan for the future instead of trying to create so much anarchy and destruction and disruption. If they bring this country down, what country are they going to rule? What country are they going to produce their new principles of good high-mindedness and greatness, all the good things they are promising? They need a country. And if you pull down the country, then you pull down the country with yourself, going down like Samson. So there's no point doing that. Plan for the future so that you can win and bring in your principles and your standards.
It's evident, isn't it, Prof, that Bola Tinubu will be sworn in on the 29th of May, albeit amidst all of the petitions, which we understand have grown into about 5 political parties who have gone to court to challenge the outcome of that election. But the burden now is, and the onus is on him, Bola Tinubu and Kashim Shettima, to steer the affairs of this country until the Supreme Court says otherwise. But then The nation now must now agree
Yes.
that is the new leader after Muhammadu Buhari stepped out of office. Do you agree with Bishop Kuka, who says that dividends of democracy, or whatever way politicians mouth it, and those issues of infrastructure are not our immediate problems? He's saying that the first thing is to keep the people of Nigeria alive. What would be your advice to Bola Tinubu? I guess he's watching now over his breaking of fast, wherever he may be in the world, and hoping that he might be able to use some of your advice tonight as he prepares to take over the baton.
Well, personally, my view is that on the long term, I'm looking at the 4 years, its major priority to the long term should be restructuring. I have no doubt about that. That Nigeria has to go back to what it was by 1963 if it is going to be a productive and developed country again.
Do you think Bola Tinubu will do that, Prof?
There are other urgent. I expect so. I expect so.
If you look at his
because that is the
yeah.
principle upheld. That is the principle, at least strongly held by the part of the country it comes from. That is the legacy of Awolowo, whom he strongly believes in, and whose theories and practices were so successful that if he had had the opportunity of ruling this country, we'll be talking about being like Singapore or one of the greatest countries, non-white, a very non-white, great country indeed. As I mentioned, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, all those countries, they would have been, they were behind us in development. And I don't think they would have caught up with us. So this is the way I see Tinubu. Now, but what he should do first, as far as I'm concerned, the first thing, security. We have to make this country secure so that we can do our farming, go about our businesses without fear. The terrorism of these people coming from the forests to destroy us is simply unbearable. So that is the first thing it should do. That's first. The second thing it should do, all right, it has to do with the economics of the country. Petroleum, for example, I do not agree that the subsidy should be removed without us producing refined petrol in this country. Let him not be deceived. Anyone telling him remove subsidy is trying to ground his party and make him unpopular. So the subsidy must continue until refineries, Dangote, federal government, all the refineries, some refineries at least begin to work. Now, when we start producing petrol internally in the country, the cost of petroleum, petrol products will drop sharply.
But Prof,
because most of this cost is due to transport.
But Prof, I mean,
so that's the second thing he must do.
Yeah, but those who are of the view that this subsidy goes into the pockets of just a few in Nigeria, they are benefiting from it largely, and the fact that also that the subsidy regime by law has come to an end by execution of time, considering the PIA. Would you like Nigeria to continue after June, which the government of the day has said that is how much is budgeted for, and that is when subsidy should naturally cease?
The new government will then budget for it afresh. Simple as that. And then continue it until our refineries start to work, at least for Dangote, that has been a source of frustration for Nigerians. What is happening there, nobody knows. The government needs to go there and find out what's going on and set it right and let Dangote start producing petrol instead of all the other chemicals and things they are producing. Petrol is the priority of Nigerians. Petrol and diesel for aircraft and so on, for use at home, and for what do they use in the aircraft now?
Kerosene.
Kerosene.
Yeah.
The kerosene, that is used. But those are the things we need. Those are the urgent things. So I would not, personally would not remove subsidy before we have local refined products. And that will eliminate the cost and even take it lower than present.
Yeah.
That is the best thing for the government to do.
Yeah, Prof, we are totally out of time. But let me ask you, let me steal 25 seconds more, and I hope I can take that liberty. And to ask you, do you believe in the Bola Tinubu capacity to run this country in the manner in which Nigerians are yearning for?
I've been in Lagos for over 30 years, going to 40 years. I knew the Lagos I met under the military. I know the Lagos I'm now living in under Bola Tinubu and his chosen successors. I mean, the difference is so dramatic. I mean, it's between a broken down contraption and a modern international city, which we are living in, with so many innovations and things coming on board every day. Now we have the railway within Lagos, and there's more of it going to come. Lagos has been turned into a modern metropolis, which we can proudly boast of and compare with many great cities all over the world. With that experience behind him, I think Nigeria under him has a very great future.
Professor Sagay, a very renowned Nigerian lawyer, senior advocate of Nigeria. Thank you so much indeed, Prof, for your time tonight. I indeed appreciate it.
You are most welcome.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. We take a break, everyone. But when we come back, you remember we've been reporting about Mr. Lamidi Apapa, who is now the national chairman of the Labour Party. So he calls himself. We find out some of the premise around that scenario. He's live with me here in the studio. There are those chairmen of the Labour Party across the state who said Lamidi Apapa is not their man, but Julius Abure will be here asking those questions with this man. Stay with me, everyone. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone. We may not have heard the last of the crisis within the Labour Party, the party which Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, ran on the 2023 election. There are those who are the chairman of the Labour Party across the state. They came together in Abuja. They held a press conference, and they said that they still believe in the Abure-led leadership of the party. Don't forget there are different court orders about the internal wrangling in the Labour Party. Take a listen to the position of this chairman.
Please, can you...
Barrister Julius Abure remain the national chairman of Labour Party, along with very distinguished loyal members of the NWC. The 36th chairman condemned the act of political brigandage perpetrated by this small fraction of NWC led by Comrade Apapa and his gang. It is viewed that Apapa and others who were involved do not seem to appear as appropriate members of Labour Party, as no one member of us with the required sanity would destroy his own home. Those who were suspended by the party, led by the appropriate organ and with due processes, remain suspended.
So the man being mentioned there, Mr. Lamidi Apapa, joins us live here in our studio. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. They say that you want to destroy the Labour Party. Why?
That's not correct. I've been in the party since 2002. Until today, I'm still in the party. When the party was newly formed as Party for Social Democracy, I was the first chairman. And when it metamorphosed into Labour Party, I was chairman for the party, I say for 10 years. And after that, I contested for the office of the Southwest Zonal Chairman. which I also occupied for 4 years, for the last election when I became the deputy national chairman. For anybody to now say that I'm trying to run down the party, that person is a liar. But let me, if you want me to refer to the last statement we got now from the so-called state chairman.
Are they not chairman?
They are chairman.
But when you say so-called.
When I use the word so-called, the national chairman invited them to Benin a day before this court judgment. That I wanted them to come and pay him a visit. Fortunately, when they were in that meeting, this judgment came up. And he did not allow them to go back until he asked them to come to Abuja. He was just feeding them with lies, referring to the judgment he got in one of the courts in Benin.
An order, actually, not a judgment.
An order. So that was, they were feeded with that information. They were not feeded with the real one that happened in Abuja, which has to do with criminal aspect. I regarded them as if it is ignorant. No human being will allow criminality to stay. And I believe nobody as a Nigerian is above the law. The Labour Party law is clear enough that if the chairman of the party, for whatever reason, is unable to perform his functions, the deputy will take over. It is very clear, notwithstanding the situation. And in this case now, this does not require a whole Nigeria to take action, because this is court injunction that the 4 principal officers, I want to say, must not or should not regard themselves as principals of the party. Now, if that has happened, what else? The next person should take over.
So let me quickly ask you.
Yeah.
What are you in the Labour Party as of today?
As of today, I'm the acting national chairman of the party.
How many people voted for you?
By rights. Let me go straight to your question. 7 of them, national committee members.
Did you form a quorum?
Yes, we formed. We formed.
How many are the NWC?
We were 18 before. 1 died. 2 were on suspension. Then remained 15. Then 4 principal officers were also almost sacked by the court that they should not portray themselves as officers of the party. Then remained 11. Then 7 voted me.
So why not the 11?
No,
where are the rest out of the 11?
The rest 4, they were informed, but for reason best known to them, they were not there.
Were not there. So 7 people, 7, excluding yourself. So 6 people voted for you. 7 were around.
Yes.
But 6 voted for you.
Yes, we are 7 at that time.
No, but 6. No, let's get it clear. 7 met, including yourself.
Yeah, but
6 people voted for you.
Yes.
Out of 18.
11. Out of 11.
Out of 11.
Out of 11.
Okay. So now, have you heard about some of the issues that have cropped up?
Yeah.
The fact that you are being sponsored by other political party to bring down this party. Are you aware of the possible damage some of your party members say this may be on the chances of your principal, Peter Obi, and the party generally with the situation on ground?
That is not true.
Who is sponsoring you?
Nobody is sponsoring me.
Are you being funded by other political parties?
Nobody.
Let me tell you. Do you have any alliance with any political party?
Nobody at all.
Before I bring out some of the issues that have been raised.
I'm telling you this, nobody. Let me tell you why this. If anybody is saying that, my position in the party before I became a chairman of the party in Oyo State, I have been a Nopeng officer. I was Nopeng chairman in Oyo State. I was the vice president of Nopeng. I was the national trustee of Nopeng. I was general secretary of Tanker Divers in Nigeria for 12 years, the chairman of the party in Oyo, gubernatorial candidate of the party 2007, and so on and so forth. And I've been praying that one day this Labour Party will lead Nigeria. And if it has come to this level, how is a reasonable person now claim that I was there to work for somebody? Contrary to people.
Were you suspended in the party before?
Nobody suspended me.
In 2014, what happened to you?
Nobody. In 2014.
What happened to you in 2014?
Nothing, everything good happened to me.
You did not participate in the affairs of the party in 2014?
I was the zonal chairman of the party.
But why were you suspended
Nobody suspended me.
So
if anybody has an evidence, such a person can bring it. Nobody has ever suspended me since 2002.
So in 2022, prior to the election of 2023, how active were you in the affairs of the party?
I was highly active.
In the campaign that was done in Ibadan, or your state, I remember there was a little fracas that day when one of the Afenifere bodyguard was accosted. Were you at that event?
I was not. I was in Abuja.
So that is your home base, isn't it?
I was in Abuja.
I'm asking you.
Yes,
you are a leader of the party in Oyo State.
Yes.
But you were not present at the campaign of your party.
And it was because of the obese movement. I was in Abuja with Peter Obi. We were to go to Ibadan together. Unfortunately, that day, the aircraft that's supposed to carry the entire team was not allowed to lift us. So I was asked to go and join another flight through Akure to Ibadan. That was what happened. I was at the airport with Peter Obi.
Let me ask you, is there any issue with as to how money is being appropriated in the party?
At all. I'm not in charge of money.
No, I'm asking, not about you, but do you have any grievance about how money is being managed under the Abure leadership?
No.
You don't have any issue?
I don't have any issue.
Financially, your party is good?
Well, to me,
because I'm hearing from your side
that
allegations that issues of misappropriation of funds have been going on.
Is it that
on
affects
the other
me?
side?
That affects me?
No, on the other side. This is what your faction and your group are saying about the Julius Abure.
It's not true. It's not true. One thing I know is this. In the party today, as far as the National Working Committee is concerned, I am the oldest. And I maintain that. I use my experience, I use my knowledge, I use my age to advise them. That's what I do.
So when they do not agree with your leadership, where do you go from here?
My leadership as of today does not require this large number for anybody to sponsor a large group. The point is this. I am not arguing with Abure's leadership. My argument with him is this, that if it has to do with Labour Party constitution, he may be right. But when it has to do with the laws of the land, Labour Party constitution does not allow anybody to run foul of the Nigerian constitution. And at the moment, the laws, when a court has ruled that don't parade yourself any longer as the national chairman of that party, right from that moment, he ceases to be the chairman of the party.
That is your own position.
And that is the position of law.
So you don't have anything against him?
As a person. But by virtue of that law, he is bound to step aside because the law has said, don't do it.
Are you worried that some of the obedient movement are not happy with you?
I don't know. I don't believe it.
You think the obedient movement is on your side?
I say I don't believe it.
I'm asking
obedient
movement, are they on your side?
I think so. They are on my side.
You think so?
Let me tell you why this. When you say obedient side, are they not Nigerians? We are Nigerians. Obedient side, they are not just from somewhere else. We are Nigerians.
Are you conversant with the obedient movement? They are mostly online.
Let me tell you this.
Are you conversant with them?
I say, listen to me. Whether I'm conversant or not, everybody has freedom to say whatever he likes without asking, without investigating what really transpired. If they know what transpired, they will know they are acting out of ignorance.
Mr. Lamidi Apapa, not Apapa.
Apapa. Yeah, that's the correct.
I understand it's from Ibadan.
Yes.
I wish you and your party the very best. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, that's our show for today, everyone. Many thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Happy Easter and happy holiday, everyone.